Okay, let's dive into this. Right now, literally as we speak, in total darkness, 6 kilometers below the surface of the ocean, there is a jellyfish trailing tentacles the length of a London bus. And it's not alone down there. We're talking squids with eyes the size of basketballs, crabs the size of cars. We are looking at an environment that is undeniably the most hostile on our planet. It is freezing, it's under crushing pressure, and it is almost completely devoid of light. Yet paradoxically, it doesn't destroy life. It somehow pushes it to produce absolute nightmare giants. So, that brings up this massive intellectual itch, a mystery that has completely baffled scientists for over a century. How exactly does a barren wasteland grow giants? I mean, how is it physically possible to build these colossal creatures in total darkness below the midnight zone? Down there, crushing pressures and near-freezing temperatures should make energy incredibly scarce. Everything we know about biology tells us this just shouldn't happen. Section 1. The Paradox of Giants. Let's head down into the dark and look at the foundational rules of deep-sea gigantism and the incredible creatures that actively exploit them to survive. To really wrap your head around the scale of this paradox, think about this number. Less than 1% of the food from the surface ever actually makes it down to the ocean floor. Under the standard rules of evolutionary biology, this extreme scarcity should dictate the existence of tiny, hyper-efficient scavengers, right? Creatures that need almost no energy to survive. It absolutely shouldn't dictate massive, energy-hungry beasts. Well, enter the Bathynomus videri. It's a supergiant isopod that honestly looks exactly like Darth Vader. This biological tank reaches 33 centimeters in length, weighs nearly a kilogram, and rocks 14 armored legs alongside compound eyes made of 4,000 honeycomb lenses. So the crucial point here is a concept called Bergmann's rule. This biological principle explains that animals in colder environments, like the 2 to 4 degrees Celsius waters of the deep, tend to have larger body masses. Why? Because as you get bigger, your volume increases much faster than your surface area. A larger volume retains heat beautifully, meaning way less energy escapes, and the creature's metabolism can drop to almost nothing. So being big down here isn't an excess, it's a highly calculated survival strategy. And just how successful is this metabolic drop? Well, consider this astonishing record. One Bathynomus vaderi in a Japanese aquarium gorged itself on a dead whale carcass and entered a state of post-feeding immobility. You and I might just call that a massive food coma. But this food coma lasted an unbelievable 5 years and 43 days without that isopod needing a single meal. It wasn't sick, it literally just wasn't hungry. Chapter 2, Cold Water Massive Cells. We've seen the macro scale, but to really understand this, we need to shift our focus to the micro level. Let's see how frigid temperatures physically alter the very building blocks of life. Normally, in warm water, cellular growth is a pretty even race. A cell builds mass through protein synthesis, copies its DNA, and divides. Copy, divide, copy, divide. It keeps the cells small. But in near-freezing water, the chemistry fundamentally changes. The cold actually delays the signal for the cell to divide, but the protein synthesis, the actual building part, just keeps right on going. By the time the cell finally splits, it is massively oversized. This perfectly explains the bizarre Antarctic sun starfish. This brainless creature, which ejects its stomach to eat and was mapped by Stanford researchers in 2023 as biologically just a walking head, grows 60 centimeters wide with 50 arms. It isn't just packing in more cells, its entire body is built from massive, oversized cells formed by the freezing water. This cold water magic also solves one of evolution's biggest design flaws, the open circulatory system of arthropods. On land, bugs like the giant Weta cricket max out at the size of a golf ball because their blood just sloshes around their bodies, struggling to deliver oxygen. But the Japanese spider crab, known locally as Takaashigani, reaches a staggering 19 kilograms with a 4-meter leg span and a 100-year lifespan. How? Because the 10 degrees Celsius currents it lives in dissolves 40% more oxygen, while simultaneously lowering the crab's cellular metabolic demand. The cold water perfectly balances supply and demand, allowing this crab to breathe comfortably at a size that would instantly suffocate it in the tropics. Part 3. Surviving the crush. Now, let's plunge even deeper into the twilight zone. We need to explore how deep-sea creatures survive physical pressures that would instantly implode a human-engineered submersible. Now, what's genuinely wild about this is a creature called the Stygiomedusa gigantea.
This is a brainless phantom jelly, famously filmed by an MBARI remotely operated vehicle in the Gulf of California. It has a 1-meter bell and 4 arms the length of city buses. Notice how 95% of its body is incompressible water. It avoids being crushed by the abyss simply by having absolutely nothing to crush. It totally lacks air pockets, rigid skeletons, or sealed chambers. The pressure inside its tissues equalizes instantly with the pressure outside.
To put that engineering marvel into perspective for you, at the depths this jelly swims, around 6,000 meters down, it comfortably withstands 620 kilograms of pressure per square centimeter. That is the equivalent of a grand piano balancing entirely on an area the size of your thumbnail. And this creature, effectively made of floating water, doesn't even notice.
Pressure and food scarcity completely rewrite how animals hunt, too, as seen with the 125-million-year-old goblin shark. This 6-meter, 200-kilogram survivor has a flabby body and terrible eyesight. On a sunlit reef, it would be eaten instantly. But at 1,000 meters down, it runs a brilliantly efficient energy budget. It hovers completely motionless, burning almost 0 calories. It just waits for its electroreceptor-packed snout to detect faint electrical signals from prey. Then, using preloaded ligaments, it fires its entire jaw assembly forward at 3 meters per second. The strike, filmed by Professor Nakaya in 2016, takes less than a quarter of a second. It basically eliminates the energetic cost of hunting entirely. Section 4. The genetic masterminds. Let's transition from the mechanics of the body down into the microscopic world of DNA and uncover how the instruction manual for gigantism is actually hardwired into deep-sea genes.
Size is written into the blueprint before the animal even begins to grow. I absolutely love that quote because it completely reframes how we view these animals. Deep-sea gigantism isn't just some environmental accident or passive byproduct of the cold. It is an actively selected, highly refined evolutionary strategy written right into the code of life.
Let's move to and see how this builds with the Alicella gigantea. This is a 34-centimeter amphipod found 7,000 meters deep in the Mariana Trench. Because it lives in the aphotic zone where there are no predators, it doesn't even bother with camouflage, rocking a completely translucent white shell. But the real secret was uncovered in 2021 by researcher Wenhao Li at Shanghai Ocean University. They found this creature has a massive 34 gigabase genome. By looking at its transcriptomes, the genes actively being read by the body, they realized the animal actively selects genes for indeterminate growth. The biological signal to stop growing simply never arrives. But continuous, endless growth brings up a weird problem, which leads us to a fascinating biological quirk called autonomy, the deliberate casting off or self-amputation of a body part. The Ryugu node tsukai, or the doomsday oarfish, perfectly illustrates this. This is a filter-feeding fish that can grow up to 17 meters long and eat 10,000 krill in one sitting. It has no biological ceiling on its growth, so to manage its endlessly increasing mass, it deliberately self-amputates up to 3/4 of its own tail. Then, of course, we have the heavyweight champion, the 500-kilogram colossal squid. Finally filmed alive in March 2025 by Dr. Kat Bolsted's Sebastian ROV in the South Atlantic, this animal is an absolute alien marvel. It has copper-based blue blood called hymocyanin to maximize oxygen. It uses color-changing chromatophores to hunt in total darkness. And amazingly, it has a donut-shaped brain. Its food pipe runs directly through a 10-millimeter hole right in the center of its brain, meaning if it swallows a bite that's too big, it actually gives itself brain damage. But most shocking of all is its lifespan. By counting the daily statolith growth rings in their heads, scientists proved this creature grows to half a ton in an explosive 1 to 2 year lifespan. So how on earth does a squid grow that fast in freezing water? Well, it comes down to genetic adaptability. While humans are genetically quite rigid, we edit less than 1% of our messenger RNA, cephalopods are master hackers. They edit over 60% of their genetic instructions on the fly. Whatever extreme conditions the deep sea throws at them, they literally rewrite their own protein instructions in real time to adapt and explode in size. Chapter 5. The Future of Medicine. Now, let's pivot from the freezing, dark ocean depths back to the surface. It's time for the ultimate so what of this explainer. Why does all of this bizarre biology actually matter to you and me? And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how deep-sea biology is directly inspiring cutting-edge medicine. For example, that incredible cephalopod RNA editing we just talked about, scientists are actively investigating if it can be harnessed to reverse the corrupted cell divisions that cause cancer.
Back in the 1990s, deep-sea bacteria called Salamspora found in Bahamas sediment yielded a compound called merazomib. Today, it's one of 13 FDA-approved marine drugs uniquely capable of crossing the blood-brain barrier to fight glioblastoma. And those giant isopods sitting in a 5-year food coma, their ability to safely drop their metabolic rate to almost zero could entirely revolutionize how we handle long-duration human space travel. Which leaves us with a pretty profound question to wrap up this explainer today. We look up at the stars for our future, but what if the answers to our greatest biological challenges are hidden in the crushing, freezing darkness right below us? What if the deep ocean isn't just the last frontier for exploration, but the ultimate frontier for human biology? If brainless jellyfish and giant squids have spent millions of years mastering these genetic secrets, it really makes you wonder, what other medical miracles and what other hidden giants are down there just waiting for us to shine a light on them?